All right, here we go.
Scout's
already yakking at us.
Scout is like, hello, it is time to go, people.
It is. There is a lot happening out there. We're going to get to a variety of things. Local story, Darren White's made the headline in the Albuquerque Journal for a ridiculous and inane reason. We'll talk about that. We'll get into a variety of different things. We may even touch on a quick trail cam here, by the way.
Oh, gosh.
Because that has been a very clear winner. I'll get into details on that. Then we're going to talk about the New York mayor's race. I know you would think to yourself, why in the world would we care about who is the mayor of New York City? And I want to kind of take you on a little bit of a ride in this respect and explain why this race may matter, not only in New Mexico, but across the country. And it's a bit of it's going to take a little connective tissue to make this thing happen. But I think it's going to be worth your time. And when you listen to this candidate, you're going to be shocked at some of what he says. Then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the story we talked about a couple days ago. And that is what happened with the attack on Iran, the intentional effort to make it look like it was not successful when it clearly was. We're going to talk about that. And then some really interesting perspective on the people that were behind some of this. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs had a really interesting story that he told during a press conference that we're going to tap back into. That if you haven't heard it, you want to hear it. It really is amazing what he talks about, and it was really cool. And we also have some numbers on the most dangerous states in the country to raise your children. And you can imagine where New Mexico ends up on that list. And we also have details. Ava's back from Africa.
Yeah, she's back from Africa, everybody.
Yep. And so we're going to talk to her about that little trip. And then we're going to go through some recommendations. One big recommendation that you may be surprised that both of us have.
Yeah, we both are on the same page. And it is shocking.
Yes.
So.
And it is something that I would not have thought I would have liked this show as much as I have. But it is amazing, actually. The storytelling is really effective, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, it's all about the storytelling.
Yeah, it really is.
Whatever, Mark. Okay, we'll razz you a little bit later. Okay, let's start with a few comments. We had so many comments, you guys. We so appreciate that. Don't forget, make some comments on the YouTube channel if that's where you're watching. We read through those, or you can drop us a quick email at info@nodoubtaboutitpodcast.com. And we can make sure that happens there as well. So, okay, this first one comes in. There were so many on the Melanie Stansberry math fiasco. It was hard to choose which one to pick, but I thought Bill's was pretty funny here. Regarding Melanie Stansberry, I'm 75% against her, but 35% for her, and 5% of me just doesn't know. So, again, if you do not get that joke, watch our last episode because... it was pretty funny and embarrassing.
Yes.
All on the same point.
Yep.
Okay. And then here we go. I mean, you guys, I asked for it, so I appreciate your honesty. It is hard for me to swallow my pride, but Mark did win this game camera nonsense. And so we have, I want to say, Mark, you probably had 30 comments and emails that came in favor of your game camera video.
Yes.
So I have to give it to the people because that's what I told them to do is to write in, and they did. So I picked a couple of them for you to make you feel better. Okay.
Okay. I love it.
Okay. Patricia Luna says, another informative episode. Thanks. I did enjoy the trail cam video. A little nature and peace after such shaking world events. I vote for every show.
Yes, Patricia.
Every show.
Yes.
Okay. Blodgett Bunch. Sorry, Krysty, but I'm with Mark on the game camera. I love seeing the wildlife on the camera, and I think you should show it every Sunday and call it Sunday Game Day. I love that.
I think that's really good.
That might be our winner.
Blodgett Bunch, you win. I'll tell her at the gym. I see her at the gym here and there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell her. She's the winner. It's Sunday Game Day.
She's the big winner.
That's right.
I'm going to make a little graphic, everybody. It's going to be Sunday Game Day. Anyway, okay. I love watching the game cameras. Painted Ponies wrote in. And then Tommy Gunn said, I love the game cameras. I cast my vote as a yes. So
okay, I love it.
The people have spoken.
And you know me, I'm a man of the people. So here we go. This is what we had this week. I just grabbed a couple of clips of the same animal, but this was, to me, when I saw this guy come through, beautiful nice elk. Yeah. I mean, this is just stunning. Look at the just health of this animal. It's amazing.
That big
rock. Look at him.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's a young guy too, I think, right?
Well, he looks pretty young to me, but I'm not an elk expert. I don't know.
Yeah, go to the next one else. And so there's two there. Thanks, kiddo. They're just hanging out, and you look at that. I mean, just a beautiful elk.
Yeah,
so
he is
that's
looking
what we
good.
had this week. Now, I have some others.
I know you do,
I've
sir.
stored them up. So I got some great stuff that I'll break out as we go.
Oh, good.
But I just wanted to do this one as, hey, this happened this week.
A little shout out to your people.
It's very solid.
Okay, so thank you guys for taking the time to write in and to tell us and give us your vote. I do love the back and forth. So
I'm swelling with pride right now. I feel really good about this.
you did make Mark's entire weekend.
You guys
okay,
did.
everybody. I said you won this. He couldn't see the comments for some reason, and I was reading them.
I don't
I'm
see
like,
the comments anymore. I
I
don't know
was
what
like,
happened.
oh my gosh, these people are really coming out in droves for your game camera video. So maybe
thank
we
you.
all just need a little break from some of the harder news.
Yes,
so, which
there we go.
appreciate that as well. So
All right, front page of the Journal. So I want to talk a little bit about this, not because I think there's real veracity in this story. I think it's a pretty stupid and inane story, but it's the headline of the Journal this morning. A mayoral hope for claimed Florida tax break meant for full-time residents. This is Darren White. Basically what the story gets into is that Darren had a tax break that he took advantage of that said he was basically a Florida resident for a couple of years. And the reality is it's a bookkeeping thing, and they jump all over it like Darren White's not from New Mexico and no one's ever heard of Darren White, like he doesn't live here and he's not been a part of our community for decades. So he has. This is just one of those stories, but I want to give you a little insight behind how these things happen, because you see a story like this and you say, oh my gosh, the Journal digs in and does some. No, they don't. So the Journal sits there, and the people at the Journal sit there at their desk, and they get a call from a political opponent of Darren, somebody, right, who's done a little bit of digging and finds a little technicality that they can jump onto here, which basically says that Darren got a couple $1,000s off of a tax bill or something 4 or 5 years ago. Okay, and then they say, oh, he wasn't a resident here. Well, everyone knows an attack like this is dumb because it doesn't fit with what everybody knows, which is Darren's been here forever, right? I mean, yeah, he has a house in Florida. There are plenty of New Mexicans who have houses in other places or whatever, but he's been a resident here, has always voted here, never voted in Florida. So you start reading this article, but these things get handed to certain media outlets. Now, if you were on the other side of the aisle or you had a different sensibility, the Journal may spike the story and not run it, right, or not do anything for it. But a lot of times what you have here is political opponents go and they just hand these papers, who are more than willing to attack you whenever they can. They hand it to them and they say, go do this, try to take this shot. We'll try to create this narrative. Okay, and so that's how these things happen. So oftentimes it's usually the political leadership of another campaign goes in, grabs some Oppo data where they think is usable, then they'll make sure they hand it over to somebody who they think can get it going, give it some life, and try to hit you with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and so that's what this is.
Right, and we have our own personal story with this, and we've talked about this on an earlier episode, but when we saw this story, I immediately started thinking about this again.
Yeah.
So we pulled this really quickly. This happened to you during the governor's race. Just really quickly before I read this headline, this was in response, you came out on Twitter against Joe Biden's wanting to forgive college student loan debt.
Right, yeah, we said, look, hardworking New Mexicans should not pay for someone else's student loan debt. You should have to do that on your own.
Right. Okay, so this is what Daniel Chacon at the Santa Fe New Mexican wrote. It says, Ronchetti decries student loan forgiveness, yet wife's federal loan was forgiven.
Right.
Okay, which is a complete load of garbage, because it wasn't my college loan that was forgiven,
right,
because I paid off my college loan all by myself, by the way, which was several $1,000s, like multiple thousands of dollars, which I paid for. But so I just pulled this little part here because I just think, again, I like Daniel Chacon. I was so disappointed in this story, though, at the time.
This was incredibly unfair.
It was so unfair, and it was so ridiculous. I wasn't running for governor. Mark was, and had nothing to do with college loan debt.
And it's your business, by the way, not mine.
Yeah.
I don't run your business.
No.
Turns out little lady can run her own business.
Yeah, it turns out little lady runs a couple of businesses.
It's an incredibly sexist attack, quite frankly, because it went out and said that basically, and you'll read this in a sec, but the overall point is, Big Daddy goes and he benefits from this when little lady is, she's got a little business, and Big Daddy gets a big benefit out of it. It's like, what an insulting article
I
this
had
was.
it out with the main editor.
He didn't care either.
He didn't care either.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is ridiculous. But anyway, I want to just pull this because it's just too classic. Documents show SJ Communications, the public relations firm owned by his wife, Krysty Ronchetti, received, get this, you guys, $2,500 in a PPP loan in May of 2020.
By the way, where does that rank on PPP loans in the state of New Mexico?
I think I was literally the lowest loan ever given in the state of New Mexico, something like that.
For a PPP.
For a PPP loan.
Yeah,
so
right.
the bank told me, actually, I was the last one forgiven, by the way, which was also just not ironic at the time because
Right.
you were running for public office.
Right.
And they said, we are giving loans in the $500,000 and the $1 million range, those high ones, they were forgiven immediately. My little measly $2,500 PPP, which I used to pay my staff, by the way. I didn't keep a dime of it to keep that in perspective.
I benefited from it.
But you apparently benefited greatly.
Wait, read the quote, though. Read the quote, yeah.
I received a $2,500 paycheck from PPP that was forgiven in its entirety, including interest.
Oh.
Daniel Garcia, a spokesman for the Democratic Party of New Mexico, called Ronchetti, who was running against Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham in the November 8th general election, a hypocrite. Quote, Ronchetti personally benefited from thousands of dollars of federal loan forgiveness, but opposes student loan forgiveness for tens of thousands of New Mexicans. Mark Ronchetti has made it clear that he's happy to take a check for himself.
Turns out I run the little lady's business.
Yeah, but he'd rather leave working and middle-class New Mexicans out in the cold, Garcia added. This, paired with his repeated opposition to tuition-free higher education for all New Mexicans, just demonstrates how out of touch with everyday New Mexicans he really is.
By the way, I didn't say that I was against tuition-free higher education ever,
again,
by the way.
But who cares what you actually said? Because, again, the newspapers, this is what's maddening, is when newspapers just say whatever is handed to them.
Yeah, right.
They don't come back. They didn't come to me, by the way, at all for any clarity before the story, which we had a relationship, and we still do, with Daniel Chacon, and I'm not trying to badmouth him, but still, Daniel, this one you still owe us for, because this is ridiculous. It's still ridiculous years later.
Well, no, and they give voice to stuff that is just flat, and this is kind of what you get into with the Darren White thing. They just give voice to political hacks that are trying to tear people down, and people wonder why they're so frustrated by the political process. They can't get health care. They don't live in safe communities. Our education system is falling apart, and then they go run stories like this, which are totally worthless and ridiculous, and they take away from the focus of what real people care about. Why? Because they just try to tear people down. They do anything they can.
Well, the reason they came after you on this one, they had nothing on you.
Yeah, I know,
literally
this was a
nothing
pretty
on
rough
you.
one,
And
yeah.
so it was like, okay, what can we do here to scratch our heads and see what happened? Oh, his wife got a PPP loan, which was completely legal, by the way. Most people in the state got one at the time.
Yeah, that had small businesses.
Had small businesses. I mean, I could have taken a much larger one, and I chose not to. So it's just like, I just took the money to pay my consultant.
No, you didn't. You gave it to me, and I drank beer with it, clearly. Because that's what I tell you. I sit in front of the TV in my Barca lounger, and I tell you, little lady, come bring me more cash to buy me beer.
Right, because you personally benefited from thousands of dollars. It's just
ridiculous. But anyway, so we bring those examples up just to be able to say this is what happened. Well, so these political, and so again, the PPP stuff, diving in on that's just another political campaign diving in to try to hurt you, right? On stuff that just doesn't matter.
Somebody had to go try to dig something up, and then had to call the newspaper and say, hey, listen, like, look what we found. This is very damning. But
and again, then the journal starts to chase it down because a political hack group goes and gives it to them.
Right.
So they'll do 25% of the work to try to get 100% of the story. And again, it's all politically motivated. And a lot of this stuff, again, the point being is, if you're talking about the Albuquerque mayor's race, which is really what this is about, there are plenty of huge issues to talk about there. Darren White having a house in Florida is not one of them.
No.
I mean, it's just not one of them. And that's the part of this that is so frustrating, because you see how many issues we truly have. Address those issues, stay laser focused on those. I wish the Journal would start doing some investigative work on all of these candidates, all of them, including the mayor's unwillingness to deal with, or at least his conflict with, a lot of the groups that try to keep people in line as far as their ethics go. That is a massive issue at City Hall right now. We don't see much on it at all. So when are we going to actually talk about issues that matter? It's important to everybody, and every candidate should be subject to this. I just think this is one of those stories. You just kind of roll your eyes and go, would you please focus on things that matter?
Right. And I guess I like to bring it to everybody's attention as well, just because I think you want people to be critical thinkers out there. So when you see something and you grab a headline or you see something, make sure you actually, number one, dive into it? Did it really answer all the questions? Did you really, I mean, like even me, even if I was an editor of the article that was written on us, I would be, if I was Daniel Chacon and I was like, okay, Krysty got $2,500. How did Mark get benefit from thousands of dollars?
Well, how does that matter? How does it? No,
stupid.
it's a sexist argument all the way around.
It was completely
if you had
sexist.
reversed roles in my business, by the way, Michelle wasn't held accountable for her husband's business.
Oh, I know. And he took,
never.
I believe it was well in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Nor should that have been a factor in the campaign, and it shouldn't have been.
But they didn't cover that.
I understand they didn't cover that because their argument would be that she didn't oppose federal loan forgiveness. But my point is on that, though, that his business is his business, and it should be. It shouldn't have been. I never talked about him. Why? Because he's not running. She is.
Right.
Right? I mean, so that was the difference. And so all these issues
and
are
I also said, hey, if
that.
you want to talk about loan forgiveness, then do apples to apples. I remember saying that to the editor at the time. I was like, do apples to apples. I paid for my college loan. I paid it off. I was like, so if you really want to go apples to apples, that's the conversation. Right. Anyway, sorry. I get still fired up about that.
No, I know. I don't blame you. I totally don't blame you. I remember seeing the article just going, oh my, I mean, we were furious at the time.
I was so
but
mad.
But it made me think more appropriately with this Darren thing. It's just one of those things that just behind the scenes, just so you know, it's another campaign, goes in, looks it up, hands it to the Journal, basically ready packaged and ready to go, and trying to make it look like Darren is near. The problem with these arguments is that with someone like Darren, who's been in the fabric of this community for decades, it's not going to hold. It's not going to be a big factor in the election. But the fact that it's the front page of the Journal, top of the fold, it's like, oh, give me a break.
Yeah, come on.
So, okay. All right. So let's talk about another mayor's race.
Oh my gosh. This mayor's race, this one's giving me stress, and I don't even live in New York.
Well, it's interesting. So Zoran Mamdani, was in a primary against Andrew Cuomo and a few other candidates last week in New York. Now, we didn't cover it a few days ago because the more I thought about it, I started thinking, what do we really care about that for now anyway? I mean, it's a big story across the country because it's our biggest city, right, in the country. But then I started to look at this and start going, you know what? This is going to be very interesting. So I want to take you on a little walk. And it's going to be a little in-depth here, but I want you to look at this a little differently than you might, because I think this election, this mayor's race, could end up having massive national implications. And so I'll explain why that is. But first, you have to know who Mamdani is, some of what he said.
Yeah, so here's just a quick tweet from him. He says, we don't need an investigation to know that the NMPD is racist, anti-queer, and
NYPD.
NYPD. Sorry, what did I say?
NMPD.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
the New Mexico Police Department?
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Okay, New York Police Department is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What we need to do is defund the NYPD. But your deal with the NYC mayor uses budget tricks to keep as many cops as possible on the beat. No to fake cuts, defund the police. I mean, you have people lighting people on fire in the subway and killing people. And you're like, okay, yeah, let's just rid all the cops.
Right. This is unbelievably irresponsible. Like this is disqualifying in and of itself.
It should be.
But no, because that's the shot. But we got to chase her. All right, so let's just listen.
Oh, there's a lot of chasers.
Oh, it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about what he says about crime. And that crime is actually just a construct, a political construct. Listen to this. This is, again, him talking before he ran for mayor.
Times we've even found as legislators, when we go into these courts, the term violent crime is even used when people are stealing packages. Violent crime is even used when people are accused of burglary and there happens to be a housing unit in that same dwelling. So violence is an artificial construction. And we have to be very clear that what is happening here with these district attorneys, that is violence.
Okay, listen to what he just said there. Listen to what he just said. And it's the classic socialism, turn everything on its head. Mm-hmm. The real violence are the prosecutors. Up is down, down is up. The real victims are the criminals. Like, this is incredibly dangerous. Okay, this type of rhetoric is the type of rhetoric that is devastating. And there are plenty of Democrats who see this guy and are going, oh my gosh, this guy cannot be who our standard bearer is going to be. But this is going to be one of the biggest races in the country for the next 6 months. And this whole approach of, no, crime really isn't crime. Criminals aren't real criminals. The real criminals are the prosecutors.
And the police.
Yeah,
he wants to defund the police, and he wants to abolish prisons, by the way. That's another, we don't have a clip on that one. He wants to abolish prisons, and he wants to make prostitution legal. I mean, these are just some of his little top line items, right? So keep going. Let's keep going.
Unreal.
Though,
and again, and if you're thinking, oh, well, at least he's not anti-Semitic. Oh, no, it turns out he is, actually.
In the city, in the country, New York, it has more Jewish population than any other place in the United States. The only other place that has as many Jewish people is Israel, by the way.
Right. Absolutely. So he was asked what he would do if Benjamin Netanyahu came to New York. Listen to this.
The US is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the US, unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the US is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the federal administration.
Okay, that is ludicrous in its point. But the ICC is the International Criminal Court, which has no bearing on anything in the United States. We don't recognize their findings ever. And so to say that you're going to, as he comes to New York, arrest the leader of the only democracy in the Middle East, a democracy that has helped take down the largest state sponsor of terrorism over the past couple of months, which was attacked and had their people slaughtered on October 7th, 2023, is ludicrous. Again, a ridiculous comment from somebody who is dangerous in his views.
Well, he's very extreme. I mean, he's got extreme views. He's anti-Christian, anti-Jewish. I mean, it's very, very scary, some of the things that this guy really stands for. And it's shocking to me that he won the Democratic primary.
Well, and again, I think this is Andrew Cuomo did not run a great race, and then he went with one of these grassroots deals. Now, one thing he talked about, which needs to be mentioned, one thing he talked about is price, basically cost of living and price of housing in New York City, which, look, there are people that make the point. There is a weird parallel here that he and Trump tapped into a similar thing, and that is that things cost too much money and people are being left behind. That's true. They both made that point. They're just making that point from completely different ends of the perspective, right? Well, completely different.
Well, just so you know, one thing he did say that to dive into this about those costs, those rising costs, he wants government-funded grocery stores.
He wants, So he wants to take control of food supply,
right? So which is what they had in Russia. Like,
right. It clearly doesn't work. None of this works. It drives up prices. It doesn't bring them down. He has no concept of anything.
It's a very communist way of thinking.
Well, it's not very. It is. I mean, right. he's a socialist, and I think even beyond communism, it's socialism in this particular case. But I want to talk too about some of what he said about taxes, and he wants to raise taxes as much as possible. Okay, and so where do you want to raise taxes? Well, listen to what he said, and he said originally he wants to raise taxes on people in white neighborhoods. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. And so then today on Meet the Press, Kristen Welker asked him, you mentioned this. She's trying to help him soften this. You mentioned that you want to raise prices on white people, right? Or raise taxes. And so here's what he says in response to that.
Website and realize there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods. Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed. We've seen time and again that this is a property tax system that is inequitable. It's one that actually Eric Adams ran on saying that he would change in the first 100 days. He's since sought to defend it and lost at every juncture in court.
And I understand you're saying we're simply describing the types of neighborhoods that would see these increase in taxes. And yet by invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods or our city. Rather, it's to ensure that we actually have an equal playing field. And right now, what we see with the property tax system is one that is overtaxing a number of New Yorkers and undertaxing others, and an inability of political will to resolve that.
So no plans to change that language on your website.
Yeah.
The focus here is to actually ensure a fair property tax system, and that the use of that language is just an assessment of the neighborhood.
All right. You are
it's an assessment of the neighborhood. It is a racist way. It is definitely judging based on race. It is absolutely, I don't know how you get around that. He's trying to say, it's an assessment of the neighborhood. Give me a break.
He also views himself as the arbiter of fairness. That should scare the heck out of anybody in New York, which is, this is not fair. I'm going to make it fair. I'm going to tell you what's fair. And I'm going to put different tax rates on different neighborhoods. You know, and again, you talk neighborhoods. Well, what? I mean, so, you know, and then he does bring the race in. So clearly, you know, this is what he's trying to do, and he's not backing away from this.
Oh, no,
So-
he's doubling down. That's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like, he didn't say my language is going to change on this on my website, nothing. He's like, no, this is just the assessment of the neighborhoods.
Right.
You sound racist. Like, at the end of the day, that's what he does. He
Well,
sounds
no. Look, he's got in the history, his history of horrendous things that he said is beyond belief. So, but we pulled those aside because I want you to understand basically what you're dealing with here. So what you're dealing with here is a socialist who's very anti-Israel, who has been very, you know, who's just over the top, anti-police, the whole thing, irresponsible in every single way, and has no right to be mayor of or has no business. No one has a right, but you know, has no business being mayor of the city of New York. This will be a catastrophic disaster for him and for the Democratic Party if he's elected.
Well, and the scary part is, Mark, is he's expected to win. Early numbers are showing that he has a great shot.
Well, of course he does, because remember, if you're talking about the breakdown of New York City, you're basically 80-20 Democrat to Republican. Okay, so he won the Democratic nomination, right? And so then you're going to throw a couple other candidates in there. You're going to have a Republican, Curtis Sliwa. He's not going to win. He doesn't belong being mayor of New York either, by the way. Eric Adams is going to run as an independent, the current mayor. Probably right now, believe it or not, as rough as it's been for Eric Adams, probably the best choice. It really is.
And they're asking
it's crazy.
they're asking the Republican candidate Curtis to step down and throw his support around Eric. I mean, that's what they're saying.
I agree. I don't think he will, but I think that does make some sense. I think Cuomo's thinking about running as an independent again, getting back into there. He thinks he has some weird path after losing to Mamdani during the primary. He can kind of circle back and be an independent. Okay, so he could do that too. So, but again, if you start breaking up that independent vote and you take that Republican vote away, Mamdani has probably a 60 to 70% chance to be the next mayor. Right. Now, it isn't 100%. And believe me, a normal everyday Democrat would be 100%. Like you're the winner. Like you'd already be the winner. The vote will be in November, but you'd already be the winner. Now it's probably 70% with this guy because he's such an extremist. And you have plenty of people on the Democratic side trying to figure out, how do we deal with this guy? Okay, what do we do? And I will tell you, this is going to metastasize to include a much bigger part of the country. And I want to give you a couple of examples. Okay, it's going to start in the state of New Jersey. And this is, we're going to get in depth here, and this is a little more, kind of wonkish, but I think it's important to look at because I think this really means something as a race. So I want you to look at the results here. This is the results in the state of New Jersey in the 2024 presidential race. If you look at those numbers, now many of you may well know New Jersey is a deep blue state, or at least it was, okay? If you look at those numbers, that's a 6-point race. That's a very close race in the state of New Jersey. Okay, Trump did very well. Okay, very well. Now that comes after the year 2021. If you remember back, Jack Ciattarelli ran against Phil Murphy, the sitting governor of New Jersey. Okay, Jack Ciattarelli got within 3 points. That was a huge race.
Yeah, that was the race we had our eyes on. It was right before our governor. It was the year before our governor's race. And that's when we had Youngkin win.
Youngkin won, right?
He won in Virginia, and then this was the other governor's race. So to kind of jog your memory, if you guys remember that, we were all really watching those two states because those are the big governor's races of 2021.
Yep, no question. So Ciattarelli does very well. So now, fast forward to where we are today. Jack Ciattarelli is now the Republican nominee for governor in the state of New Jersey again. So he's won the primary, and he won it big. He got 67.8% of the vote in the New Jersey governor's primary about a week ago. Okay? Now, who's he running against? He's running against Mikey Sherrill. Okay? This Mikey Sherrill, she is a Democrat who's not an extremist. Okay? Even, I think most Republicans would agree, even Republicans who don't like Mikey Sherrill, which there are plenty of. No fan of Mikey Sherrill. But I will tell you, Mikey Sherrill is not, she is not Mamdani. Okay? However, what is the biggest media market touching the state of New Jersey?
It's going to be New York City's media.
It's going to be New York City.
Right.
Who's running? So if you are Jack Ciattarelli, you're going to spend as much time running against Mamdani as you do against Sherrill.
Right, because with the policies, right? That's what you mean when you say that? Like you're running against the policies of that guy.
Yeah, so you're regularly going out there saying New York is about to elect an extremist socialist to be their mayor, and you need me to stand in the way and stop him. So you're hammering away at Mamdani as much as you're hitting Cheryl. And you're turning Cheryl into Mamdani and Mamdani into Cheryl. You're morphing them together. They're the same person. You're running against both of them. Now, you also have the Philly market in New Jersey, and that's going to be part of it too. So you can have both. So Philly won't cover as much of it as the New York market will. But if you're Chitterelli, you're going off on this. Okay. And you're saying, I am the bulwark against stopping somebody who absolutely will destroy New York City. I will protect New Jersey because New Jersey is so closely tied to New York City.
Well, right. You have a lot of people that commute back and forth to
Huge,
the city,
right?
that live in New Jersey.
No question. Businesses, everything, right?
Yeah.
So you're running against both of them and you will hammer this guy. And you're doing it in a state that is already moving right. So is Chitterelli going to win? I don't know. That's going to be tough because actually Cheryl is not a crazy person. Okay. She's not. Okay. So that you should know. However, if you're Chitterelli, you'd much rather have Mamdani running at the top of the ticket in New York City than Cuomo because Cuomo wasn't as crazy as Mamdani. Right. So Chitterelli's like, so let's just forward this ahead. And in the same Mamdani wins. Okay. Then you're looking nationally. Okay. As you approach 2020, so well, in this particular case, it'll be 2028, or excuse me, 2026. Sorry, the congressional elections, right? You start wrapping the Democratic Party in Mamdani. He is the national face of the Democratic Party. That's what you're going to do. That's why so many Democrats are looking at this and going, no, this guy is not what we stand for. We do not want to defund the police. There are plenty of normal Democrats who are like, no. But I'll tell you what, this guy is dangerous for the party because, again, in this day and age, and this is a lesson that Trump has taught, which is don't run away from what you believe. Stand up for it. Because a lot of times you can't run away from it. It's really hard to do. And voters will appreciate the fact that you stand up for it. Now, if you're as extreme as Mamdani, I think it's incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I get that you keep saying that, from what I'm reading is that they think he'll get about 35% of the vote is kind of what some people are kind of estimating. So he is beatable if you put, if you get some of the candidates out, meaning if the Republican drops out, everybody puts their
but that's not going to happen. No one does it. No one does that.
Yeah, I know, because ego
no
gets in
one
the way.
does it. Right.
The scary part to me is, though, I guess I just my rational thinking is you still have plenty of Democrats who are Jewish that live in New York.
They won't vote. Most of them will not vote for him.
Well, I would hope all of them would not vote for this guy.
Welcome, But still,
I mean,
but you do have a huge portion of that population which does support him. And if you think he's not going to win, he's got a real chance. And he's got a lot of people who look at what's happening in New York City. They can't afford to live there. And they're like, we'll take anything. And so everybody thinks that, this is, how could anybody possibly elect this guy? And by the way, the best things that have happened in New York City and why the city turned around was really Giuliani and then to some degree Bloomberg behind him. But after that, the city starts, de Blasio destroys the city.
Yep.
And then beyond that, Eric Adams does not do a good job. And this guy will be the topper of all toppers. He'll destroy New York City. Mm-hmm. He absolutely will.
Yeah.
And so my point being on this, that you think, why do I care about the mayor of New York City? This is why. Race in New Jersey will matter because of it. And then I think nationally, if he wins and he becomes the standard bearer for that party, it is going to be an albatross around their neck. It's going to be a very difficult thing to escape because it's hard to make the case that you're for especially middle-class families and keeping this country safe when this guy is your standard bearer. And that's why so many Democrats have been like, whoa. Now, some have jumped on board. Bill Clinton, guys like that have jumped on board. We'll see what happens. But I'm just saying, overall, that's why you care about this race. It's going to matter. And if he's their standard bearer, they're in trouble.
Wow.
They're in very big trouble.
Okay, let's get back to this bombing in Iran, okay?
Yeah.
And what happened here. We have just all this, it's not going away, right? So you have this preliminary report that we talked about on an earlier show, just that, basically trying to discount Trump's efforts and the military efforts and saying, this really was a bust. It didn't do the damage that we anticipated. And then this past week, we've seen, press conferences with Trump and Hegseth and all these other people coming out and saying, listen, that was an early report. I don't know how anybody's saying that we didn't do the damage that we've said that we've done. And you even have Iran basically saying, yeah, it's you've put us back. So
right. And so on CNN's the one who broke the story. And so Scott Jennings, our favorite guy on CNN, comes out and without directly saying CNN, he means CNN, directly tried to destroy the narrative on this to be able to say, hey, this didn't work. Well, it turns out CNN was wrong on this. We said it when it happened, when it came out, this was going to be wrong, and it has been proven to be wrong. But here's what Scott Jennings said.
On your face. I need
I have a slightly different take, of course. I think a concerted effort was undertaken to make this mission look like a failure. I think they have a point. This was a low confidence report, which was omitted when it was first reported. We didn't use the word low confidence.
Talk about what low confidence means.
It was a preliminary report, and it was sent. It was done by the government, put on a system, I guess sent over to Congress somehow, and now the White House thinks that some Democratic members of Congress leaked it or characterized it in a leak in a way to try to make it seem like the mission was a failure to hurt Donald Trump politically. So I think they have a point about why they're upset. And what have we learned since? Israel says these things were decimated. The IAEA thinks they were decimated. Even Iran says massive damage was done to our nuclear sites. I do think that when it comes to Donald Trump, often the position of covering him is this must be disproved. And when it comes to Democratic presidents, the position is we'll take it at face value.
Yeah. So and it's absolutely true.
It is true. It's kind of, I mean, even so that, I see some people on social media really trying to just say, oh, then the other conspiracy theory is not only was he unsuccessful in this bombing, right? But don't worry, Iran moved all of their uranium. Okay.
It's a great point. It's a great point. So on that point, by the way, they didn't move anything. If you know anything about nuclear fissile material, especially the stuff that they had enriched to the point they had 60%, you don't just throw it in the back of a pickup truck and take off. It's so inane and ridiculous to even say that. You'd have to go and transport it properly. If you don't transport it spatially, really, I mean, I'm talking like spatially and perfectly, you risk complete and total contamination. It'd be a disaster. Okay, so you don't just roll up there, chuck it out of there. And by the way, you created Fordo to protect it from something like this, from a bombing. You're going to then take it out of Fordo when you're under attack from the Israelis, put it out in the open and allow them to bomb it?
Yeah, no way.
It's crazy.
It's the dumbest theory.
It's a terrible theory, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's wrong. But Trump did come out and talk about it a little bit, and here's what he had to say about did they actually move it, which again, if you think about the process involved in this, it would take months to coordinate this thing, to move fissile material like this. You just can't.
And you don't think that the Israeli government would know that was happening?
Oh my gosh! Not only would they know, they would have the guy driving the truck, and they'd be like, "All right, we're going to take." He's like, "I'm going to take it over on 3rd Street, and I'll walk out of there and just bomb the thing." I mean, it's crazy, right? Yeah. It's nuts. But here's what Trump had to say about it.
I saw reports that there were 400 kilograms, 800 pounds that they moved, but I wonder if it's traceable. I mean, if they were to have moved, they didn't move anything.
You know, they moved themselves. They were all trying to live. They didn't move anything. They didn't think it was going to be actually doable, what we did. And what we did was amazing. And we went, there were energy commissions that went there now. No, it's just thousands of tons of rock in that room right now. That room, the whole place was just destroyed. And the other two also. Now, Israel was able to do damage, but we did the final damage. And we have the greatest submarines in the world. We launched 30 rockets from submarines. Every single one of them hit their target.
Yeah. So this is just, it's some of this stuff is ridiculous. And I do think the media does this at their own peril. Because what they end up doing is they end up saying, no, this didn't happen. This didn't work. Trump doesn't. The problem is he has more information than any of us have. Mm-hmm. It always does. And so you'll end up looking at like, wow, it turns out that, let me give you a quick example. I was watching a Sean Ryan show this past week. He had a reporter on who's doing a ton of work on the fentanyl trade and everything that's happened at the border since it was shut down. You know what she said? She said a huge amount of the fentanyl trade has been moved from Mexico. Now, do you remember who Mexico was paired with when Trump came out and said, you guys have to do more to stop the fentanyl trade?
China, right?
Well, China and Canada, right?
Oh.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Like
the tariff thing.
We all said, why would Canada's not doing anything with,
right.
They don't deserve this. Oh, yeah, they do. This has moved to Canada. So when you start looking at how much of the fentanyl trade now goes China, Canada, United States, it's massive. It's totally changed. Well, everybody's like, why is Trump doing this? Because he knows, because he's got all the data and he's got all the intel. right? That's just one little example,
Well,
right?
but people are saying, oh, but this report came out from the Department of Defense. I mean, so they were like, it's definitely qualified.
Oh no, it's ridiculous. It's 24 hours after it was done. It was, can you imagine? It's like in your own business when you get one little tiny piece of information, then you get the whole picture. You're like, oh, geez, all right. So, but the point being in all of this is it's ridiculous, and we all could tell if you're going to drop 14 or 12, GBU 57s. On that thing, it's done. I mean, it is done.
Well, I'm like, listen, if they can clean that rubble up in 3 months, then we need to get those people in New Mexico to start fixing our roads. Because that's pretty fast.
Right. No, I mean, can you imagine how smooth the roads would be?
Yeah, I mean, if you got 3 months, in 3 months, our state will look fantastic.
It will. It's a good point.
You could move 2.5 miles deep of rubble. Like,
it's unreal. It's unreal. That is.
It's just not even common sense. So when I was seeing people posting about it, I'm like, come on.
Yeah, stop.
Use critical thinking for 1 second.
But this is just the same old pattern over and over again. Don't believe them, attack, turn out to be wrong, and then you just look dumb and dumb. And again, it doesn't work anymore because you have a broader media now, a lot of more conservative media out there, a lot more independent media who say, no, that's not true.
These people are not listening to them. So that's the problem.
No. But most Americans have access now to this. So you're seeing a bit more of a balance. You are. Go look at the numbers on normal legacy media, whether it be local or national. Ratings. They're dropping everywhere. Yeah. So they're dropping everywhere. Okay. So, yeah. So I want to do one other longer clip here I want you to listen to, and then we'll move off of this strike. But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Kane, told a really interesting story about 2 people that work inside our intelligence community that have been solely dedicated to trying to end the Iranian nuclear program and watching Fordo and watching everything that happened. This is just such a well-done story by the general, just explaining some of what goes on. We don't know about it, obviously, and we should never know about it until after it's over. But this is really amazing when you listen to the story. So it is worth your time. It's a couple of minutes long, but he goes through and talks about the story of 2 people who have been watching Fordo since day one.
2009, a Defense Threat Reduction Agency officer was brought into a vault at an undisclosed location and briefed on something going on in Iran. For security purposes, I'm not going to share his name. He was shown some photos and some highly classified intelligence of what looked like a major construction project in the mountains of Iran. He was tasked to study this facility, work with the intelligence community to understand it, and he was soon joined by an additional teammate. For more than 15 years, this officer and his teammate lived and breathed this single target, Fordo, a critical element of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. He studied the geology. He watched the Iranians dig it out. He watched the construction, the weather, the discard material, the geology, the construction materials, where the materials came from. He looked at the vent shaft, the exhaust shaft, the electrical systems, the environmental control systems, every nook, every crater, every piece of equipment going in and every piece of equipment going out. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving back and forth to work, and they knew from the very first days what this was for. You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose. They weren't able to discuss this with their family, their wives, their kids, their friends, but they just kept grinding it out. And along the way, they realized we did not have a weapon that could adequately strike and kill this target. So they began a journey to work with industry and other tacticians to develop the GBU-57. They tested it over and over again, tried different options, tried more after that. They accomplished hundreds of test shots and dropped many full-scale weapons against extremely realistic targets for a single purpose: kill this target at the time and place of our nation's choosing. And then, on a day in June of 2025, more than 15 years after they started their life's work, the phone rang and the President of the United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of spending time with these two Defense Threat Reduction Agency officers who've given so much. One of them said, quote, "I can't even get my head around this. My heart is so filled with the pride of being a part of this team. I am so honored to be a part of this. To you both, thank you, and thank you to your families."
Proud to be an American. I mean, it's unbelievable.
You're getting all teary-eyed.
I am all
Yeah,
teary-eyed
yeah.
over that. It's incredible. Imagine giving your life to something you can't tell anyone anything.
Right. And you don't even know if what you're doing is going to actually work.
Yeah. Will it even happen? Will it ever
Right.
even matter? Will you spend 20 years on this and then all of a sudden they get the bomb and what you did meant nothing?
Right.
Instead, it's the opposite. You went in there and you did incredible work that not only allowed them to find the location, know exactly what they were dropping that bomb into, but help develop the bomb that did it.
I know.
And then realistically, you're not bombing people. You're just bombing a nuclear site to make sure that the most dangerous country in the world can't take innocent lives. That's incredible.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
incredible. I'm so there's so much of that goes on in our defense industry, that the people that keep us safe every day. This is the greatest country in the world. And if you don't watch that and think that, I don't know what to do for you, but you definitely take advantage of the blanket of freedom which they provide. You should thank them for providing it.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And what's so funny is, in a random twist, we decided to watch the new Top Gun, which came out like a couple years ago, but you hadn't seen it.
Right.
I had taken Ava to see it.
Right.
And I had kind of forgotten, I just remember, they're flying. And of course, the only one they can send in is Tom Cruise.
Well, of course, Tommy's got to be the guy.
Maverick.
Yeah,
He's only in his
fantastic.
60s, but let's send him over
he's
to
totally
do the most
great.
dangerous thing.
He's the
And
greatest.
it's all about a flight to take bombs into a undisclosed location.
Nuclear facility.
For a nuclear facility to drop a bomb down into the nuclear facility. I was like, how did Tom Cruise know about this 10 years ago when they wrote the script for this thing, and then make it such? I mean, now watching it after literally the week after this bombing took place.
It's exactly the same storyline.
I was like,
it's
it is the same storyline.
They went in with F-18s, which, older, they weren't taking in B-2s and sending in a 30,000-pound bombs. But yeah, it was the same exact concept.
Yeah, it really was. It was
funny.
kind of crazy. But so if you haven't seen the new Top Gun, watch it, because now it's even super.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
It was great.
Tommy's great. Okay,
it was great.
Something that's not so great, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, because I don't like bringing out all the bad news about New Mexico. In fact, I hate doing that. But I do think it's important for us to be paying attention to stuff like this, because it matters who we vote for school boards, for mayors, for our governor, for anybody that represents us in the state. I think this all triggers back to this kind of stuff. This brand new data that's out says that New Mexico has been named the most dangerous state in the U.S. to raise a family. As a mother myself, and as I know so many of you out there that are listening are parents, I don't know how this doesn't just make your blood boil, make you scared of things. I mean, make you be more protective of your own kids and of yourself. Your head's on a swivel here.
Well, and it's based on FBI crime data.
Yeah, it's based on FBI crime data.
Yeah.
So it says New Mexico has been dubbed the riskiest state in the U.S. for raising a family, according to a new map based on FBI crime data. The data shows that New Mexico tops the list with the highest rate of violent crimes nationwide. It also ranks second in terms of homicide rates, with 12 per 100,000 residents, and is third worst for property crimes, recording 2,998, so basically 3,000 incidents per 100,000 people.
Yeah, that's incredibly
I mean,
high.
it's incredibly high. Look at this map, okay? So anything that's in the dark purple, okay, which we're number one. We're the darkest purple, most purple we can see.
Right.
On this state map.
Yep.
And
Washington State's up there.
Colorado's there. And Louisiana isn't he?
Yeah, Louisiana's up there.
Too.
Oregon's up there.
And by the way, I guess we're all moving to Idaho because it's bright yellow, or Maine. Those seem to be the safest places in the country right now.
New England's pretty safe. And it is. And these are the numbers we've talked about before. And it's an ugly number that, and again, I think, we have to, and this is where my biggest argument has been with the legislature, that they have not taken this seriously. They just won't pass meaningful crime prevention bills. They just won't. And I think you've seen at post 2022 election, the governor woke up and was like, well, we need to address these issues. Thank you.
Yeah, a little late.
But now, she's also fighting a legislature now that won't do it. So,
but it's maddening though, Mark, when you look at stuff like in our mayor's race right now, and you've got Keller out there saying that we have a safe state. We don't have a safe city. No, we don't. So it's like Instead
No,
of
that's
snowing
true.
people, can we actually just deal with the crime situation? People want to know why we back Darren White. We back Darren White because he takes crime seriously.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest issues we have in this city. And I know people don't want to talk about that, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
So anyway,
No,
now
it's
we're
good.
going to talk about more fun things.
Okay.
Okay. Our kid is back.
She's back,
I'm
everybody.
back.
She's
Ava,
back.
thank you
Ava
for joining
Did you
us.
miss me?
We
Yes.
did miss you.
I was actually talking to the audience.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did
Sorry.
you miss me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, their drama.
Here I am.
Okay, so Ava has come in after 5 weeks in Africa on a
have.
mission trip.
Yes.
And with a fresh batch of malaria.
Yes, I do. I do have malaria. That was not for show. I do have malaria.
Yeah, I know. And we even took you to get all the drugs.
Yeah, no, I did take preventative medicine and it didn't work. So
Okay. Yeah, no.
keep that in mind.
Yeah, stop messing with the mic because you're giving the old. You're doing this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we can't have that.
I've been away too long.
I know it's
just
true. You
forgot
got
the
to
ways.
refocus.
Yeah, no, you can take preventative medicine all you want. You can still get malaria.
Yeah, turns out.
So I
But
got it.
how was it? What? Give us your impressions of
It was good. So I went to Cote d'Ivoire, which is in West Africa. So if this is Africa, wait, it's the other
we
way.
go. There it is.
Cote d'Ivoire's right there. in
Yes.
the little-
Yes.
Yeah.
That little part.
Yeah,
So-
there we go.
So that's where I went.
Here's a little
And
picture.
I was there for about a month, and I basically worked at a university. I did outreach to the students there, and I just went out and asked them if they knew the gospel, and most of them did. Cote d'Ivoire is 99% religious. It's about 35% Christian, and then the rest is either Muslim or various tribal religions. So most people had definitely heard the gospel at that point.
Yep.
A lot of people were very receptive, and we went to an orphanage as well.
Yeah.
We went to church multiple times.
Here's a sweet picture of you, Ava, that we
Yeah,
popped up here of you. Tell us the
what's
story
going on?
really
Yeah,
fast.
what's up with this?
So this was church. We went to church on Pentecost, and I came outside, and there was a group of like 11 girls just looking at me. And I was talking with my translator, and he said, they want to touch your hair. And I said, of course they can touch my hair. So they did that. It was really sweet.
Is that just because you had red hair?
Yeah,
and
it's
so-
because I have red hair. And then so sometimes, I'd walk by and a group of kids would like touch my arm. That happened to a lot of us.
Yeah.
I thought it was really, really sweet and really endearing. I know that it's kind of weird and frowned upon to touch strangers in the United States, but they didn't mean it was sweet of them. I thought it was actually really nice that they were curious enough to touch my hair. Yeah. They were all really sweet. Everybody I spoke to there was incredibly nice. People are so hospitable. They'll offer you their food, their drinks, even if it's all they have. They'll invite you in. They'll invite you to spend the night. They'll invite you to do whatever you want. They're always willing to have a conversation with you. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then they're really receptive about religion. I think in the United States, I've done outreach at universities here in New Mexico, and people are incredibly hostile when we try and bring up the idea of Jesus to them. They don't like to talk about it. But people in Cote d'Ivoire, it's almost like a given for them. I remember we were talking to one guy, and I was relaying that to him that in America, people don't really believe in God, and they're really aggressive about that belief.
People who don't. You mean
People who don't believe
Yeah,
in God
people who
are
don't,
really
right,
aggressive
right,
about the fact
right.
that they don't believe in God.
Right.
And he went, Americans don't believe in God? I said, there are a lot of Americans that don't believe in God. And he said, why? You live in a country where everything is perfect. Your country's like heaven, and you don't believe in God? He couldn't believe it. He's like, we live here, and of course everybody believes in God. And you live in the United States, which is supposed to be the greatest country in the world, and you don't believe in God? And I was like, I don't know. I couldn't. It kind of was a new perspective for me.
Yeah.
To
super interesting.
He thought it was like such an immense point of privilege, the life that we came from. So how could we not credit everything we'd been given to some higher power? He couldn't believe that we just didn't believe in God.
Yeah.
Like certain Americans just didn't believe in God. I thought that was really kind of admirable. I really liked it. I thought it was great. Food was great. I didn't expect that. It was really good.
You said it was hot most of the time.
Oh my gosh, it was so hot. And it was so wet. And it was so rainy. But that was okay. I like rain. I like storms.
Yeah, you can see it here. Yeah, that's a
Shakes
pretty.
the
Yeah,
It
there's
rained
no doubt.
hard every single day. There
Yeah.
was lightning. It was great. There were animals everywhere that I got to pet. Lots of kitties.
Yeah, I didn't put the kitty shot in there.
You didn't
Sorry,
put the
kiddo.
kitty picture in there? Well,
Sorry
there
about
was-
that. I know.
I actually went to a market and there were a bunch of cats there. And the guy handed me a kitten and he said, "For you, free."
So what do you?
And I said, no,
And I
thank you.
said, I wish I could take this cat home right now.
So I guess your overall impression of what did it do for you? How do you look at things differently now versus before you left?
Well, definitely, I think, and this is going to be an obvious answer, but it is really easy to realize how lucky you are when you go to a country like that where people are just glad to be alive. Like they're just grateful that they have another day that they can spend working with all 4 limbs. Like that's a really good day for them. And for me, a good day is not having to do any work and being able to lay in my bed and eat whatever I want. And that's just not a privilege that people have there. So it definitely gives you a new perspective on like, man, I really come from such an incredible level of privilege that's going to permeate through my entire life. I will always have an opportunity that these people will probably never have. That's really something. It also definitely made me realize a lot of things people complain about are just so stupid.
Right.
Things that I complain about, like unloading the dishwasher.
Yes.
But even bigger things, even people, and like, this is political, but even people complaining that like, Donald Trump is this and this is that, and this is a fascist government that we're living in. And it's like, no, they have slaves in Africa still. Like that's still happening. Like they're, Cote d'Ivoire was plunged into civil war in the mid 2010s. People were killing each other. Yeah. It was really bad. And the aftermath of it was very obvious there. Their infrastructure is struggling, so their hospitals are not great. Their roads are terrible. Yeah. And it's like we're just so lucky to be living the way that we are, because a true government that doesn't care about its people, that's where I was. And I'm really glad that I was able to see that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then for the people that are wondering, malaria, real quickly, like what have been your symptoms?
Everything. Every symptom of every disease I've ever had, I have right now. I have a headache. I'm coughing, obviously. Stomach ache. A lot of, other symptoms that I don't wish to discuss on the podcast.
So what's the trajectory of it then? What do you do to deal with it?
Interesting thing about malaria is if you get malaria and you don't treat it, it's not like the flu where it'll go away. You will die. Yeah. You will die 100% of the time.
But thankfully, your leader took you to the clinic.
She did. She was wonderful. She had malaria also.
Yeah.
About 7 people got malaria on the trip. And so I'm taking 2 different courses of antibiotics. One is going to kill the parasite, and because malaria is an actual parasite in your blood. And then the other one is just to alleviate symptoms, I think. And the way malaria works, though, is it lives in your blood forever. Yeah. Sometimes, if you catch it early enough, you can completely cut it out, which is what I'm hoping to do. Because if you get malaria, you can't donate blood anymore.
I know, and you're big believer.
I'm big on donating blood, actually.
I know. Well, we're glad that you're back. I mean,
yes,
you guys
we missed you.
Took you guys 40 hours with all the delays to get home. It was a 40-hour day of travel, and you guys coming off that escalator at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then half of you having malaria. I just felt terrible. I was like,
and a lot of people had it. I had it pretty bad, but most of the people who had it worse than me. Wow. It was brutal for a lot of the kids we were with.
Well, Abe, we are so excited that you're back.
Yeah, we are. We're blessed that
we are blessed.
And we prayed for your safe return, and we are glad that happened.
Yes, and it's 4 short weeks. We take her to college, so we're going to make the most of this time with you at home. So,
Yep.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us.
Hey, do you want to sit in for the rest of this? It's going to be real quick.
What are we discussing?
Well, hold on. So part of...
wait, can I talk about the basilica?
Sure, real quick, if you want to.
So there's a photo there of this beautiful church. It's the Our Lady Basilica in Yamoussoukro, Cote d'Ivoire. It is the 2nd largest basilica in the world, built and owned by the Vatican, so it's Vatican property. It's huge. They built it in the 1980s. There's a bunch of motifs for Pope John Paul and for the president of Cote d'Ivoire at the time, because they both facilitated the construction of it. It's huge. They used 5,000 different colors of stained glass to make it. All the wood was sourced from Cote d'Ivoire, then shipped out to Italy to be made into benches or columns or doors, and then shipped back.
Wow.
They do 3 different masses there a week. It's beautiful. It's so big. I loved it. The columns outside of that hold the building up, each one weighs 2 million pounds.
Wow.
That's how big they are.
That is stunning.
It was so beautiful. I loved it, so I just wanted to talk about it.
No, that's good. Good job. Look at you giving us a Cote d'Ivoire breakdown.
Just giving us the church breakdown. Okay,
good job, kid.
We'll stick around here because we're just doing our kickers.
All right, so here, a couple more quick. We'll get you out of here quickly, but. I had to say, as a kid of the 80s, one of the great shows was the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, yeah, Dukes of Hazzard.
Friday nights when you sat down with your parents, you got the Dukes of Hazzard. You
Love
had
Boat.
Dallas. No.
Oh, no,
It
Dallas.
was Dukes of Hazzard, Dallas, and Falcon Crest.
I
mean, it
Saturday
was
night
a
was
murder.
Love Boat and Fantasy Island.
There you go. Yes, Saturday night, absolutely. Tattoo and the Boys coming up on Saturday night. But so anyway, in Kentucky the other day, they brought out a replica of the General Lee, and he jumped a water fountain, and this is what it looked like. Here we go.
This is crazy.
Oh, and look at, so the General Lee lands, and there's the song. But look at both doors come flying off the General Lee.
And then he hits the barricade. I
mean,
of
course.
Yeah, that door is just gone. Isn't the door sitting back there?
Oh, yeah, that's both doors are gone.
Is there a driver in that car?
Yeah. Yes. I think there was, kiddo. I think there was.
Oh, there had to be.
You know that driver just took a shot.
Oh, yeah.
When they ended up landing.
Because it's not like that thing's like full of safety gear.
No, I doubt they have a whole lot of work.
Holy cow.
But there it is. Got it done. So
I would not be the people sitting at the end of that street.
Because you don't know what's going to happen.
Because that's just me.
Well, those are some massive cement blocks there.
I don't care. I'm that person. I'm always thinking the worst case scenario. And I'm like,
jumps them.
Yeah. It just keeps going. Can't stop. I don't know. Like the brakes go out.
No.
Okay,
All right.
So now
go ahead.
Here is what I want to tell people about this show. Okay. So I started watching the Netflix documentary last year of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Yeah.
And I was not a cheerleader. I'm, kind of opposed to cheerleading sometimes.
Oh, geez, calm down.
Well, as I got older, okay? When I was in high school, I was like, But to say, watching that documentary, I gained a whole lot of respect. One of my best friends, Shauna, was a Denver Bronco cheerleader.
Right.
So she did teach me a lot about the programs, and I raised up a little bit and got a little bit more educated on how much dance goes into all of this.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And so the first season was pretty fantastic, and I'm watching it. And
so this is on Netflix last year.
It's on Netflix last year.
Okay, yep.
So the show we started watching last year. It was the first season of the Dallas Cowboy cheerleading documentary. And you'd think that, I don't know how good this is going to be. Well, it was fantastically shot. And then the storylines about these young women auditioning, their dance ability, the fact that they can kick their legs as high as they can kick them. Holy cow, that's a whole nother story. Was so entertaining for us. I actually started watching it. I got through halfway through the season. One of my best friends, Shauna, was a Denver Bronco cheerleader, so I kind of knew a lot about about the programs and how hard and competitive they are. So I found this to be absolutely fascinating. Well, you come in kind of halfway,
right? You
get sucked into it because it is compelling.
It's not only compelling, not only is storytelling incredible, the shooting of the show is great. And I know you think, cheerleaders, look hot. That's not what you get out of this. I will tell you right now, it is unbelievably well done. In the storytelling, it really is. I know it sounds crazy for a guy to be like, cheerleader show, cool show. It is really well done.
Yeah, so now the second season's come out.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to start watching it. I don't know if you want to be in or not. And you're like, of course, let's check it out. And honestly, we're binging it because it's so well done. The stories are very compelling about these young women that are basically going into contractual negotiations.
Yeah, it's getting serious. Yeah.
Because last year that was kind of the big thing in the papers were the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders going to get a raise or not?
Yep.
And anyway, it is really, really well shot. You're looking at it just because we're shooting our own reality show right now.
Right.
And so looking at it from a camera lens perspective and the shots they take and
the money spent on this show, it's hard because we're shooting.
We're shooting ours on a budget,
but it's a much smaller budget than this. It is so well done. Now we don't know. We're about halfway through, so we don't know exactly how things are going to turn out. But I will tell you, as far as reality shows go, and it is not some reality show. It's like the Real Housewives of any. It's nothing like that. You really have like the personal toll of this because the type of dancers that you have here. These are skilled women that were great college dancers. And then you have to be the best of the best to do this. This isn't like old school hot chick comes up and starts jumping around. That's not what this is.
Right.
Like these girls are so talented and it's so competitive and you can't help but get sucked in by it. It really is amazing.
I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but even them just telling the story for the viewer of how difficult that highline kick is, that they have to touch their face with it, their leg. I can't get my leg halfway up. So, I would have no idea.
No, I know.
And they're talking about flexibility and all the physicality that goes into that. I don't know. I think what I want to do, though, is I want to record you and your commentary of the show because it should be its own reality show. You have comments about everything from these ladies that are running the organization to the boyfriends of the cheerleaders.
Yeah. Some of these guys
they're their own story as well.
My Lord.
So anyway, we won't wreck it for you, but if you're looking for kind of an entertaining, lighthearted show,
it's better than you think. Let's just say that.
It's better than you think. So check out the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders.
Called America's Sweethearts, right?
I think it's America's Sweethearts, something like that. Yeah,
it's worth it.
And so anyway, well, thanks you guys for joining us. We appreciate it. We know we gave you a lot of information today, but we always appreciate you tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and remember to sign up for our email on our podcast on our website, which is No Doubt About It.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It Podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.